Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today is something very different. I'm sitting inside of a 2023 Lexus ES300h. Now obviously this isn't my IS500. The IS500 got a check engine light yesterday, and so I had to drop it off at the dealership, and this is my loaner vehicle. So I thought, while I have this car, I'm going to do a little bit of a review on it. Having my perspective as an IS500 owner might be a little bit different than what you would see from a normal ES300h review. And obviously, nobody would ever cross-shop a IS500 with a Lexus ES300h. But, you know, I'm not just an IS500 fan, I'm also a Lexus fan. So there are a lot of qualities about the ES300 that appealed to me, and I see value in sharing with you. So I'm going to be talking about a few different categories. Number one would be the driving dynamics. Number two, the interior quality. Number three is the comfort. Number four, we'll go over exterior. And then number five, we'll also cover practicality. And then I'll also talk about reliability and then exclusivity. First, let's talk about driving dynamics. The IS500 and the ES300h are completely different in this category. The IS500, as we know, is rear-wheel drive. It has a limited slip differential. The ES300h, on the other hand, is front-wheel drive. It's also mated to a continuously variable transmission, which is seen in all of the hybrids from Toyota and Lexus. The driving dynamics of the IS500 is a lot more dual-natured, because you have that V8, which can scream, but it also has that very soft luxury feel when you're just pedaling around town. The ES300h, on the other hand, is just soft all the time. So in that regard, the IS500 has a lot more to offer because it has that dual nature, that Jekyll and Hyde personality that makes it a lot of fun. Number two is the interior quality, and this is where the ES300h really shines. I've always felt that the interior of the Lexus IS500, as nice as it is, just doesn't elevate itself to the highest levels of luxury that Lexus is known for. The ES300h, on the other hand, really hits the nail on the head. The leather in here is really nice, and I believe that the leather here is actually new Lux because this is the base model, but you can option it with leather, which in and of itself is a great option to have. The other thing I want to talk about is the audio system. For some reason, the IS500 Mark Levinson audio system doesn't sound as good as this base model ES300h without Mark Levinson. I think it's just because of the physics of the way the speakers are placed, but the ES300 just has really great audio, whether or not you get the Mark Levinson system or not. Overall, it just feels a lot more put together in terms of the fine details. The IS500, in a lot of ways, feels more like a hybrid between a true sports car and a luxury automobile, whereas this just feels like a luxury automobile. And so that's really where the interior quality shines for the Lexus ES. Moving on to the next category about comfort. And this is again another category where the ES wins. When I stepped into this ES300h after getting out of my IS500, it was just very spacious and incredibly comfortable. Now, some people don't like that because they like the feeling of being more wrapped in a sports sedan and having that control in a small cabin. And that's what the IS500 really offers. But if you're someone who likes a little bit more luxury, a little bit more space, then the ES300 is a lot more comfortable. Now, unfortunately, we know that Lexus discontinued the GS and the GSF, and that kind of combined both worlds. You got that really nice fit and finish, luxurious space, but you also got that sporty feel. And so that was kind of the hybrid between the IS and the ES, and then in this, it's really just all about comfort. The other thing that makes the ES300h really comfortable is actually the transmission. The CVT transmission in this hybrid is incredibly smooth, especially compared to my IS500. If you've seen a lot of IS500 reviews or videos, you might be aware that the transmission is a little bit jerky sometimes. Now, obviously, you don't have to drive that way because, as I mentioned in the last category, The IS500 has that dual personality where it can be very luxurious, but even in that situation, the transmission still, you can feel it sometimes. And it's just enough to remind you that you're in a very outdated 8-speed automatic transmission, whereas this one, you're in a continuously variable transmission that is just smooth every single drive, every single stoplight. So for that reason, I have to give the comfort to the ES. Now that we've talked about the interior, let's talk about the exterior. The exterior win goes to the Lexus IS500. There is without a question that the IS looks way more sporty. It just has better lines, and the designers did a really wonderful job with the Lexus IS exterior. There's really no complaining about it. The Lexus ES300h, on the other hand, has always looked a little bit more outdated, similar to an Avalon or a Camry. Because of its long wheelbase, it's a little bit higher off the ground, more chrome parts. And to me, that's just a little bit more blasé. It's not as exciting as an IS. Now, I don't know whether or not the people who buy this car care about the exterior looks, but the exterior on the ES300h is one of the weak points, I think, about this car. Number 5 is practicality, and in this category I actually have to give a tie to the IS500 and the ES300h because they both have different strengths in terms of practicality. The ES300h is practical because it's a little bit larger, it has room to fit 5 grown adults, and it also has a lot of cargo capacity, has good MPG. I think it gets about 45 miles per gallon, the hybrid version, so you really can't complain about anything there. On the other hand, the IS500 is a little bit smaller, so you can maneuver it a little better, manipulate it in those tight corners, in those parking lots. I personally like having a smaller car, and so the IS500 is very practical to me. This ES300 barely fit in my garage, and I can't imagine having to deal with that every single day. From my perspective, this ES is just a little bit too big, a little bit too long, more space than I actually need right now. But I can see the benefits from someone who wants something a little bit more spacious. Number 6 is reliability, and this could be a very interesting conversation when we talk about the IS500 and ES300h reliability. Now, we all know that Lexuses as a whole are very reliable cars, but I am actually going to give the reliability to the ES300h over the IS500, and there's a couple reasons. As far as I've had this IS500, I have seen people have a lot of issues with it. Now, these are not, critical issues like the engine is not failing, but they are minor things that people have had to go to the dealership and take care of. For example, there is the check engine light issue with the exhaust, which is a bad fitment of the gasket between the downpipe and the midpipe. There is reports of a faulty fuel pump. There's also an issue with the front apron separating from the fender. And like I just said, this isn't a big deal, but for the amount of Lexus IS500s that are out there, which is probably in the low thousands, this is actually quite a few issues to have in the first 2 years only. The ES300h, on the other hand, has always scored really highly in automobile magazines for reliability, and I believe there's a reason for that, because Lexus has been doing hybrids, and the ES for that matter, for a really long time, and everything just feels a little bit more buttoned up. The other thing I want to point out is the reliability will change over time with how these two cars are driven. An ES300h is probably not going to be driven that hard. It's just going to experience less wear and tear, whereas the IS500 overall will probably experience more wear and tear. But combined with the issues that I already mentioned, I just have to give the reliability to the ES300h. And with that, the last category I want to talk about is exclusivity. Now, this category is a win for the IS500 because there are just so few of them compared to a car that's mass-produced like the ES300h. If you look on a Lexus dealer website, you'll probably see like 50 ES300h's, whereas you might see 2, 1, or 0 IS500s available. And it's just because it's a limited production vehicle. You don't see many of them on the road. And for that reason, it's a lot cooler to me because the IS500, it's a V8. It's a Lexus IS500, whereas this is just it's just another Lexus hybrid. And that's all I really wanted to share about this review of the ES300h from an IS500 owner's perspective. The IS500 will absolutely destroy the ES in terms of exterior looks, driving dynamics, fun, exclusivity, but the ES really shines in the categories of comfort, interior quality, and then also reliability. I promise we'll get back to more IS500 videos as soon as my car is back in my hands and we're on the road again. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye.